Alright guys, so I just got some mail in from Phoenix Arcade. I got the side art and the control panel overlay, and I'm waiting for the marquee to come in. That was on back order. So one of the first things you should do when you get some artwork is lay it out flat. Lay it out flat, put some weight on it so it'll flatten out. They get shipped in tubes, and when they're shipped in tubes, you know, when they're in there for a couple days, they have a tendency to stay curled. So you want to kind of get rid of as much of that curl as possible. And I've also gone ahead and I painted my control panel. This had surface rust on it, and it's actually got some pitting, unfortunately. But that's okay. It's going to be covered by the control panel overlay. If this was a piece that was actually going to be showing metal surface, we would have gone ahead and done a skim coat of Bondo on that and sanded that out nice and smooth. But anyway, let's go ahead and install the control panel overlay. When you get them, they don't have any of the buttonholes already cut out for you. They're cut. They're, you know, like a die cut. You just pop out all those holes and it'll make lining up the control panel a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll start setting this up so we can get lined up. But some things you might need. You might need a set of scissors. You might need a squeegee or a credit card, or in this case, because it's just a control panel overlay, you can use your hand. You're going to use some of the buttons to help line it up, and you're going to want some tape to hold everything down. So let's go ahead and start doing that. Before I go ahead and actually apply any vinyl or anything, when I worked at the sign shop, we would wipe things down with denatured alcohol. You can use other things like isopropyl alcohol or something like that. Basically what you're trying to do is just making sure you have a clean surface to apply this to. Now, this is a freshly painted surface, so it's not going to be much of an issue, but if you're working on something else that may have had wax on it, you're going to want to take all that wax off. So we're going to go ahead and wipe this off. We want to make sure you get any dust off and things like that. And the nice thing about denatured alcohol is it dries really fast. Alright. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to cheat as far as lining this up, because we've got the holes here. There's no sense in spending the time and measuring it all out because we've got holes. So I'm just going to take some of my buttons here. They don't need to be the exact colors, but we'll go ahead and just going to kind of drop them in to where they should be going. And what I like to do is put three buttons in. I'm actually going to go ahead and onto the back, and I'm going to tighten them up. Make our lives a little bit easier. Alright. Oh, I need the holders. Let's go ahead and get some holders. Alright, I got some holders here. So we'll go ahead and put those on. Just to help kind of hold everything in place while we do this. These don't need to be tight, just enough to kind of hold the artwork down so we can tape it and be good to go from there. Okay. So that will hold in while we put some tape down to make sure everything's lined up, and this is a good time to kind of check to make sure that everything is lined up, and it looks like it is lined up pretty well. I think I might put one more in the top and we'll be good to go. I'll start taping it down. So I actually just put the two outside buttons into the middle, and I put my third button in, and the reason I did that was because when I had the two outside buttons in, there was a buckle in the middle, and by doing that I alleviated the buckle and put all the extra material to the outside, so that will give me a little bit of an overhang if I need to, and I can trim it as needed, but at least I get rid of that buckle in the middle. And when you're working with vinyl like this, you don't want to have any sort of folds or buckles going on. That way you can push everything to the outside and it'll lay nice and flat. So I've gone ahead and done that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in and I'm going to tape down both sides, and then I will take the vinyl and we'll come down, and then we will go back up. So before I actually apply the vinyl, I'm going to go ahead and remove the buttons now that I know it's lined up. And I've got my tape here holding everything down, so it's not going to go anywhere. You don't need a whole lot of tape. I know some people go crazy with this. As long as you've got a sticky tape, you're good. So even if I lie it down, we look, everything is still lined up, and that means we're good to go. So let's go ahead and flip it over and get started. So, like I said, I'm going to pull this back like that, and we're going to start by laying it down. So just go ahead and start to pull one corner off of the backing. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to pull it back to the tape. And we'll go ahead and we'll cut that off. And if you do like I did and have a hard time cutting, just make sure you take off those little pieces of backing paper. They don't get stuck. Alright. Then you're just going to slowly bring it down. You're going to kind of pull it tight a little bit. Not too much. And then, if you don't have a squeegee, just going to slowly come back and forth with your knuckle and work it over that edge. Now this bend here is probably the toughest part, so you kind of want to make sure you're pulling tight. You'll go over the little bit on the bend into the middle, and then you're going to work your way out. If you do have a squeegee or a credit card or something, you just do it like this. Now we'll pick it up. This is the one that folds over, so we'll make sure that we get to all of that. Now it folds down here, so we're going to go ahead and fold it over, doing the same thing we just did. So I start in the middle, and I work my way out. I kind of start on the top edge and go over the corner. Make sure that I've got a nice, good surface there to hold on to. Alright, that's that one. Now as far as bubbles go, with this type of material, because it's laminated, you're probably not going to get a bubble. If you do get a bubble, it's going to be a very big bubble. So I wouldn't be too worried about that with this. Using the same knuckle technique, I can still manage to apply vinyl and not get any bubbles. If you hear that noise, that's just the cat. She's having a great time. Alright. Go ahead and hit that with the squeegee and then we'll come back up to the top. So there we go. Let's go ahead, and what we're going to do now is we'll remove the tape. Don't need that anymore. And then we'll pull back this here. Now remember, we started over this raw corner here, so it should be a lot easier to apply. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll pull this off. And one technique you can use the backing paper to help hold up your artwork. So what I do is I fold it back halfway and I pinch it from the top. Now I'm not too worried about it. And then if I'm using my knuckle, again I start in the middle, I push down nice and firm, and I go back and forth. Okay? Using that technique, you will be okay and not have any bubbles. Or you can use your squeegee and do the same thing. Although I would prefer to go over those holes, I think, with my knuckle. And then when you run out of the artwork, just pull the rest of the backing off and lie the rest of it down. And the way the top of this works, there's more material here. You could, if you wanted to, cut that off. Or because this is an edge that's going to be, getting open and closed, what I suggest doing is rolling it over the top and making it nice and tight. So that way it'll kind of protect the artwork from starting to come up on the corners when you open and close the control panel. So again, to do that, just start right in the middle, pull tight. So there we go. We have our track and field control panel overlay. It is all done and ready for buttons. Let's go ahead and just make sure that back edge is nice and tight. So we'll go run our squeegee over that. And we should be good to go. And I'll do the same here, because there's a little bit here, but not much. That actually came out just about spot on. And if we look for any sort of overlap or anything, not sure if you guys can see that, but there is none. It's perfect. It's right to the edge. We'll check the other side too, and that is also right to the edge. So they actually did a really nice job cutting this. All the holes line up. It is the exact size it needs to be. I can't say much more nice things about it. Even if we look back where the holes are, they've done it so that the vinyl is the hole is just a little bit smaller than the actual hole, which is a good thing. That gives you some room to play. And you know what? They did a nice job. So let's go ahead and we'll start putting some buttons in. I ordered the track and field button pack from Bob Roberts, so this is what it looks like when you get it. It's got the 4 red buttons, the 4 white buttons, and the 2 blue buttons in there. I also ordered 4 new leaf switches, not all of them, because I'm going to reuse the old ones for all the other buttons except for the run. So I picked up the new leaf switches from Bob as well. And just to give you an idea of what they look like, this is what they look like. Everything's nice and clean and straight and should work really well. They also come with a spacer that is needed for metal control panels such as this, so that just goes on the bottom like that. It'll be good to go. So let's go ahead and install one or two buttons, and then I'll go ahead and finish the rest of them up. So we're going to put our red run buttons in, and let's see if I think they'll stay in for now. Then we'll go on the back and put those leaf switches on. So the way these work from Bob, you will use a spacer and then the leaf switch. So the spacer, leaf switch, and then you put your nut here right on underneath. You're going to have to lift up the leaf switch to get it on. And then I just tighten those things down by hand. There we go, there's one. We'll go ahead and do some more. So here we go. There are the 4 run buttons installed. They feel nice and brand new. Can't wait to try them out. Alright, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up installing the rest of the buttons and go from there. Alright, there we go. All the buttons are installed and it looks nice and fresh and brand new, and just got to finish doing the wiring, and this control panel will be ready to go.